Thank you for doing his right.
I hope I did.
Oh, what right?
Statement be confidential. See ya.
None.
Yeah, I did do mine right, but she caught me.
She got you.
Okay, we are live.
Ready? Okay, we'll call this work session to order. Mr. Suter?
Yes, so as you know, we've been looking at redistricting options for the past couple of meetings. With assistance from Brandon Moore of King Moore Incorporated, we presented 4 options for your consideration. And to recap, based on the 2020 census data, the Carrs Creek District grew in population, and the Natural Bridge District shrank in population. So there needs to be some changes there. The issue is, of course, that Buffalo separates the two, so it's the impacts to Buffalo as well. Every option we've looked at has had no impact on Walker's Creek or South River. It just didn't make sense. The latest development occurred on Friday when we took a look at the proposed House and Senate redistricting maps released last week by the Supreme Court. Heretofore, the entirety of the county was included in a single House or Senate district. So there wasn't any split, nothing split in the county. The new proposal has the entire county in the same Senate district. So there will be no split there, but the House district split the county. This really has no effect on the 4 magisterial district options you've been considering, but it would impact a couple of precinct boundaries. And I spoke with Mr. Harry Stone, who is here tonight, chair of the electoral board. And we looked at some potential options of impacts on shifting districts. I mean, shifting precincts. So there would be some impacts there. And we're prepared to discuss some of that tonight if you'd like to get into it. But the main goal of this work session is for the board to discuss any thoughts you might have on redistricting options. And again, we'll show you some information on the House and Senate proposal from the Supreme Court. Should after the work session, the board be prepared to direct staff to advertise a specific magisterial district option, that can do so as an action item later on the regular agenda. Ms. Huffman has also laid out potential processes for public input and adoption in the board report, and collectively, mainly she can answer any questions that you might have in that area. Again, as with on the 22nd, the last meeting, Brandon Moore is with us virtually to go through any of the options you would like to revisit. And so Brandon is here, and he can share his screen whenever the board, if you want to discuss anything first on those magisterial district options, or if anybody would like us to start with one of the 4 options.
Do any of the options have less an impact on the voting precincts than the others?
No, these the voting maybe we just go ahead and pull up. Brandon, could you go ahead and pull up and maybe walk us through the changes, the proposed changes to the precinct?
Did you say
Anybody would like
voting
us to start with one?
Yeah.
Because
the
the
4
answer was yes, I think, for that one, wasn't it? I thought the.
Hey, Brandon, you
Any
might
of the
want to
options
mute.
have less an impact on the voting precincts
Yes.
than the others?
No, these
Hey, Spencer.
maybe just go ahead and pull up. Brandon, could you
What's
go
going
ahead
on
and
here?
pull up and maybe
Oh,
walk us
deja
through
vu.
the changes?
Yeah, I think I'm, can you guys hear me?
Where's Stefan?
Sorry about this, folks. Hey, Brandon, you
Any
might
of the
want to
options
mute.
have less an impact on the voting precincts than the others?
No, these
Hey, Spencer.
maybe just go ahead and pull up. Brandon, could you
What's
go
going
ahead
on
and
here?
pull up and maybe
Oh,
walk us
deja
through
vu.
the changes?
Yeah, I think I'm, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you now. Where's Stefan?
Sorry about this, folks. Hey,
Any
Brandon, you might
of the
want to mute.
options have less an impact on the voting precincts than the others?
No, these
Hey, Spencer.
maybe just go ahead and pull up. Brandon, could you
What's
go
going
ahead
on
and
here?
pull up and maybe
Oh,
walk us
deja
through
vu.
the changes?
Yeah, I think I'm, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Sorry about this, folks. One of the options, less impact on the voting. No.
Yeah, I think you guys hear me?
Yeah. Sorry about this, folks. One of the options, less impact on the no.
All right, Brandon. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I might need to get a little closer to it.
Okay. How about now? I'm pretty close to it.
Okay. I'm gonna turn you up here a little bit.
And can you see the map now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you may try to go forward.
Yes, I think we're good now that we got some technical assistance.
Okay, so I've got the 4 plans pulled up. I'll just start with A and show you the, all the plans. We had this area of Natural Bridge, taking the area from Buffalo. That's pretty much static on every plan. So what we'll focus on is this area where Buffalo, due to then losing population to give to Natural Bridge, had to gain population, and also Carrs Creek had to go down in population. So Plan A has this area in, so the orange lines are the precincts. And if I turn this off for just a moment, you'll see the dark lines are the district lines. And then you have the yellow would be the new area that Buffalo would take from Carrs Creek. We've got an area out here toward the western side, and then this area coming up through the south central area. This one would have somewhat of an effect on precinct in terms of the voting location. We're using there, you guys are using at the school admin building here, would no longer be in the Carrs Creek precinct. So I think it might have to be something done there. This also has a existing school board member in this block that would move out of Carrs Creek and into the Buffalo district at the, I guess, at the next election. Plan B.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm more concerned with the
House and Senate.
House and Senate, and it's
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that what you wanted to talk about? Sorry.
right. And if
So
plans
let me
affect-
overlay this. Hopefully you can see it okay. This Christmas view of green and red. This is the red is the new proposed. We don't know if it's finally official or not, but this is the current plan that was sent out on Friday with a link to show the House 37 and 35 split. And what they are doing is they're following the current district lines between or precinct lines up here between in the Walker precincts and coming down the Walker district and Carrs Creek district and falling back in, they're cutting through right here in this precinct. So the area up here that we would have to change anyway, because this is no longer a census block, the way we had it in 2011, we would be taking this area in regardless. There actually is no houses in this area between the orange line and over to the green-red boundary. So I don't really think there's any impact there anyway. So the biggest impact is going to be this area right here. So this is one precinct that goes up here all the way down and over to the South River Walker's Creek line. So this would actually create a split precinct here. There's 219 population in this red area of the precinct, and then 815 in this smaller area of green.
Brandon, can I speak to that just a second?
Yes, sir.
So I've communicated with the board that it's not permissible to split precincts. So in the past, some of people in this room might have walked into a polling place, and if the precinct was split by a House or Senate district, you go to one side of the room or the other to vote. Because you're voting for the same magisterial district, the same, the same election with the Board of Supervisors, but the people going to the right may be voting in one House district and the people on the left vote in another, if that makes sense. So that is not permissible anymore. And so what this is essentially what this is doing.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, not permissible because you're in the same building, or not permissible? Why is it not permissible?
State code.
No, but why? What aspect of what you described is not permissible? Split precincts.
Split precinct.
Okay.
Yeah. They did not used to be prohibited. They
Not doing it in one building. It's just the whole thing is no longer permissible.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
So what this is essentially doing, you've got 815 plus 219. I can't do math in my head that well, but add those two numbers together and you've got, that's the population of that precinct. So that is the, Jay, help me with the, that's the VOTEC precinct. Okay, that votes at Faith Assembly of God right now. So what would happen is, since you can't split them, you would reduce, like if it was comfortable, if the electoral board was comfortable with it, the Faith Assembly of God would only have 815 population in that precinct. The other 219 potentially could go vote out at the firehouse, Carrs Creek Firehouse. That making sense?
So we're not going to have more precincts. Some are going to become much larger and some are going to become smaller.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't characterize it as much larger, because keep in mind that of the 219, that's population that may not be registered voters.
That block right there has 39 going through the middle of it, right? From what I can see, is that what that's saying?
I believe 39 is the line.
All right.
You see the river there, and just in the 219 to the right of that, or the east, the line there is 39. The line between the green and the red.
Yeah. I can't see that close, but that's all right.
And see, we don't have the digital files on this yet. As far as Brandon actually did some magic with that, and he took a screenshot and was able to superimpose it. So
Does this have an impact of what we're discussing? I mean, this is not yet.
No.
voted on, right?
it is not.
So is this going to delay the decision that we're trying to make on our redistricting now? Does that have, how much of an impact, if any?
Doesn't have to, but that would mean if you wait until approval, you can do it all at one time. if you move forward with the redistricting approval, there's no question we would have to come back and work on the precincts.
Mr. Stone, what, you have any concerns with the precincts or?
Mr. Stone, you might have to come up so folks could hear you. Sorry about that. Oh, I mean, to the mic.
From that map, we'd be taking one of our smaller precincts and making it even smaller, but I think that can be handled. One of your plans, which I think makes great sense, takes another part of that precinct and moves it from Cars Creek over into Buffalo, probably voting at the Baptist Church there. So again, that makes sense. If we do both, we may not have enough people left in that precinct for a precinct, but the way voting works now, so many people vote in here anyway. I'm not sure how much it matters. We can work with whatever we need to work with. It just almost seems like if you went to Vesuvius or Goshen, one of our smaller precincts, and took some people out of it, if you go far enough, you've lost your reason for having a precinct. And that's okay. We, fortunately, in Rockbridge County, we have a lot of precincts. We give people good opportunity to get to the polls, or try to.
So if we feel comfortable moving forward, it won't hurt you.
It will not hurt.
Okay, that's, I didn't want to create a problem.
Like I say, this just came up on Friday and I wanted to have the discussion today. Unfortunately, Mr. Stone was in the building. All right, so did you want to go to another plan?
Anyone want to go to another plan? Have any questions?
All right, let's go to second one.
So Plan B here is basically the areas you saw in Plan A that we moved over here and here, we've shifted that over to take a little bit less land area slightly to balance the area. And it still creates an issue for the school board member being in this block and moving into Buffalo. But this creates a balanced district plan as well by taking this area into Buffalo. Plan, oops, didn't open Plan C yet. Hold on just one second. Let me get Plan C opened up. Let me just jump to Plan D while that's opening up. So Plan D is similar to Plan B we just saw, except it's taken less of a land area, just taking these 3 blocks essentially. There's this one, the large one, and a little small one there around the edge of the city limits. It's taking that area into Buffalo and leaving this area here that had the school board member, leaving these blocks in the Cars Creek district. And again, all these plans create a balanced population threshold. So we're meeting the standards there. This plan also to get, because we gave up some of this area to maybe have an option of not moving this school board member out, we picked up some area over here toward the west side to get a little of that population back to make it balanced. Let me open up C here. All right, so District C is similar to A. So essentially, we kind of ended up with A and C are somewhat similar, and B and D are somewhat similar in terms of the geographic plan. This differs from A in that A had this same area and this part of the west side, but we also took, to get a little more population balance, we took this area all the way up the side of the county line up to Walker's Creek.
Can you put up the poles on that one, on C, where they're located?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear that.
I think he's looking for the polling places, and I think you've got them on there.
Yeah, they're here, the stars. The orange lines are your precinct areas. So this precinct right here, up to this orange line, they would come down to Rockbridge County School admin to vote.
Right, but
Currently they do.
But could they still do that, being that it would be in another precinct?
My understanding, I think the election voter registrar might have to answer this, but I believe that you have to be within 1 mile of the district line. So I think this would go too far out. So I'm not sure that this could still be used.
That's
Right.
correct.
And so that would create a problem.
It would seem to be, yes. I think you're somewhat limited out here on other options. That's probably why you chose this one down, right on the district line. So I would think that might be something that would be difficult. You guys, it's like flashcards. You want me to go back and flash up each one again?
Anybody want to see any of them again? Personally, I think C can be eliminated since it takes away the polling place, and there, when you look at that, when you're out there, unless you're going to construct a new building, there really isn't a place to conduct the polls.
Yeah, and I think with that, saying that, I think that might be the same situation with A, because it's taken essentially that same area. So you might, with that logic, lose A and C. And then that leaves B and D. So B is, I think its problem a little bit, it could be this situation with the school board member, although that's not a requirement. You can move incumbents out. They just fulfill their term in that same district representing Cars Creek. But if they were to rerun, they would have to rerun in a Buffalo district. And then Plan D is just the smaller area and alleviates that issue with the school board member.
And just to point out, the reason I was mentioning it, the issue with the house or the house split, we've not been in that area at all, so it doesn't really impact any decision you make on any of these as they've been looked at in, the past weeks, month.
So with Plan D, we okay with our voting precincts, and we are with our elected officials.
Correct.
Everyone good? I think good, Spencer.
Okay, so again, it's on the regular agenda. If you wish to take action on the regular agenda, it's there for you to do. My only question would be, would you all like Brandon to hang on for the regular agenda? Or are you pretty well comfortable with what you got?
I'm
I
Good. Everyone good with what we got? Yep. So no need.
Spencer, if some reason you do, just shoot me a text. I would be available to jump back on but before 6:30, anytime before 6:30, if you do need me, okay?
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Thanks.
Okay, well, anything else, Spencer? Or we
Yes, sir.
close the work session and we'll start our regular meeting in about 5 minutes.
All right, we're back live.
At this time, I'll call to order the December 13th, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Will you call roll, please?
Supervisor Lewis,
Present.
Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Ayers. Here. Supervisor McDaniel.
Here.
Chairman Lyons.
Here. At this time, I ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence as we remember all the people that were devastated by Friday's tornadoes in Kentucky and Illinois, and that'll be followed by the pledge.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As per the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Executive Order 72, persons who have been fully vaccinated for the COVID-19 virus are not required to wear a mask. We will hold citizen comments near the beginning of the meeting. We'll do our best to take citizen comments remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. If joined by telephone, you may dial in on one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing simply to view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by phone. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? And if so, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none.
Just if there was any need to move any public hearings around, I guess you could do it at that time.
Okay, yeah, we will do it based on number signed up. And the agenda will stand approved. Recognitions and presentations.
Yes, sir. So each year, the past few years, the board has recognized years of service milestones for employees, and we really do appreciate that. I think it's a great program. There is a small monetary award that goes with that. And we do 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year, et cetera. And so we eventually like to be able to have staff come to the board meeting, but we also have a employee luncheon this Thursday. And so we're going to present these certificates this Thursday, but I just wanted to read their names out of folks that are receiving years of service this year. John Harlow, 5 years of service. Jonathan Griffin, 5 years. Shane Watts, 5 years. Nathan Ramsey, 5 years. Steve Bolster has been here 10 years, or his date was January, February of this year, I believe. And Brandy, 10 years of service. Brandy Whitten. And also Hank Leach and our GIS department, 15 years of service. So just like to ask you all to help me recognize these folks. Next time you see them, they're greatly valued, and we appreciate you all recognizing them and for this program.
Yes, for sure.
All right, at this time, we'll accept citizen comments. Comments are welcomed that do not pertain to the public hearings. Public hearings will begin at 6 p.m. and comments pertaining to those matters should be held until that time. Is there anyone signed up to speak in person this evening? Is there anyone with their hand raised or remote? Yes, sir.
Mr. Coffey's going to give my RAR report for me.
Okay.
Ms. Ayers asked me to give you an update with Raro.
All right.
Just, we're currently in our winter season, as most of you all are aware. Our basketball season is well underway at this point, all programs. We've got 370 participants in basketball, which is spanned across 39 teams. Wrestling is scheduled to take place starting after the first of the year. We have 37 wrestlers signed up for that. Raro is also working with the Rockbridge Pickleball Club to provide them, work with them to get access to space to continue playing pickleball through the winter months, and partnering with them to begin offering pickleball as a Raro sponsored program here in the next few months. So, you all have any questions?
Oh, keep up the good work.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You had, was anything written or any emailed comments, Sue?
Not pertinent to anything other than public hearing.
Okay. So then we will close the citizen comments period and move on to the minutes from November 22nd. Does anyone have a chance to review them? Are there any changes?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
A motion to approve
A second?
and a second. Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Mr. Bolster, the financial package?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. If you go to your financial package, you'll see there's a memorandum that leads the discussion. For the Commissioner of the Revenues, Mr. David Weitzel, who's here today or tonight, there are 7 items that are listed. The first one is preparing the calendar year 2022 forms to be issued by December 31st. This was discussed last month, so business licenses, business personal property forms, etc. Some monthly activities, working the monthly DMV report and the monthly real estate transfers to make sure local records link up with those. As far as the land use revalidations for 2022, that continues. And then preparing for the cigarette stamp, which will be effective April 1st of next year. And then assisting citizens if they have any questions with the second half real estate taxes. And then lastly, helping Wingate with the general reassessment. If there's no questions on the commissioner's activities, we'll follow this up with the treasurer's activities. There's 4 items listed. I'm collecting delinquent personal property tax. The second is collecting the second half real estate. As you all know, taxes were due last Monday on the 6th. And then we have, or Mr. Travato has 21 individuals that are estimated to have about $3,060 in debt set off come back to the locality. And then lastly, preparing delinquent files for registering for new debt set off by the end of the calendar year. So if there's no questions for Mr. Travato, then we'll transition to the Fiscal Services Department. As far as the CIP update, there's 2 files in your financial package. One is the county CIP, one is the school division. The Finance Committee met on December 7th. We had an opportunity to review the CIP worksheets. I just have 2 updates. They don't really financially impact anything, but we do have ongoing expenditures. So we had $39,216 in expenditures so far for the Natural Bridge Station Collection Center. And then we've had 1 invoice of $3,065 for the Murat Collection Center upgrade. And so that's going to impact the carryover. So we just made an adjustment on that. It really doesn't change anything that's on the worksheets outside of that. So if there's no questions, those are the only 2 updates that I have on the CIP, the draft CIP. So we'll be coming back in January to request the board provisionally adopt the CIP. And if there's any updates, I'll provide it at that time. With that, if you take a look at the line chart, the senior financial package, as I've mentioned in previous discussions, this is all data driven based on what has happened in the prior 3 fiscal years, based on what we estimate for the current year. So at this point, revenues are above expenditures. For November 2021, it was projected to be 1,509,225. Our actuals are significantly higher at 3,984,958. And so as you look at the line chart, you can kind of see what's happening here. The revenues, the actuals are higher than what was projected. And through November, our expenditures are less than what was anticipated. And so I had mentioned this last month when it comes to the sales and use tax. So what I'm providing you does not take into account that there were increases to the meals tax last year or lodging as well. But so far through November, not so far, but through November, our sales and use taxes are 1,376,627 higher than they were same time last year. And so just to break it down, sales tax, which there was no change in that, it's up $268,091. Meals tax, which went from 4% to 6%, it's up $293,501. And then lodging, where it had the one component went from 2 to 5, it's up $815,037. And so, as I mentioned last time, obviously last year, COVID-19 had a significant impact on all three of those areas. And of course, we all know that their prices are rising. I think the latest information was that our CPI for the country was up 6.8% compared to last year, through this year. I'm looking at expenditures. I really don't see anything that stands out to me. I think this is just more of a timing issue when you compare what has happened previously to what's happening now. Our transfer to the county is typically low in November. It's down about 136,000 compared to last year. We did do an advance refunding on the courthouse, so that does have an impact on our debt service. So it's about 98,000 less than it was same time last year. But outside of those two, I really don't see anything that really explains why we're down compared to what is projected. With that, let's just move to the appropriation resolution. You can see that there's 5 items on the appropriation resolution. Each one has a source. The first one is CERT, and that stands for the Community Emergency Response Team. It's a request for $500. That source is they received $500 from the Community Foundation this year. And so that's going to be used for their emergency responder rehab program. So there's a source for that. The next 3, we anticipate there will be a source. So the next 3 are all linked to the COVID-19 vaccination clinics. So we'll be submitting those costs up to FEMA. And the last one are 2 projects linked to the approved CIP for this year. So we have one for the transportation office and then one for the concrete repair at the high school stadium. And so source of that money is the school carryover account. With that, the total of all bills is $1,054,572.79. That equates to 667 invoices on the bills list. I've got some notes on some of the bills if you have any questions that I might be able to answer. If not, my recommendation is to approve the appropriation resolution as presented.
Any questions for Mr. Bolster? You've heard his recommendation.
Move we approve.
Have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
A second. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you, Mr. Bolster.
So
Consideration of municipal software consulting service contract, Mr. Bolster.
sir. So you may recall back in August, on the 23rd, the board approved staff issuing an RFP for municipal software evaluation consulting services. We put it out on the street. We had October 14th as our deadline. We had 2 proposals come in. We brought the ranking and went to an evaluation team, a 5-person team of both county staff and constitutional officers. We evaluated them objectively based on the criteria that was in the RFP. The ranking is listed in the agenda report. So we had virtual IT first, and then what we called Barry Dunn the second. On the 22nd of November, we asked the board to accept the ranking and authorize staff to enter into negotiations and return with the contract. And so that's what we've done. We believe we've negotiated a contract that is fair and reasonable to the county and to virtual IT. And so with that, if the board is in agreement, we're requesting to accept the contract that's in the packet. And in addition, we're asking that the board authorize the county administrator to execute the contract documents on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and to take such and other actions and further actions as may be necessary and appropriate to accomplish this agreement, which shall be approved as to form by the county attorney. And so in your packet is the contract and a resolution.
Does anyone have any questions concerning the contract? You've heard the request. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Suter, consideration of the rabies clinic for the fire and rescue agencies?
Yes, sir. The Code of Virginia requires that counties in the Commonwealth ensure that a rabies clinic is held for its residents at least once every 2 years. And we're very fortunate to have fire departments and also veterinarians and proactive residents who advocate for and administer and host the clinics. We have clinics scheduled for 2022 at South River, Rafine, and Goshen Volunteer Fire Departments. The dates are listed in your agenda item, and these are subject to change due to inclement weather, but we do need to have them approved by the board. So if you're in agreement, don't have any questions, we'd ask that you approve those rabies clinics on those dates held in the places listed.
Okay, you've heard Mr. Suter's request. Are there any questions concerning the rabies clinics?
Do we ever schedule them in the south end of the county?
We have, I think, at Natural Bridge. And I can't think off the top of my head, but I think we've had them at Natural Bridge before.
Do we alternate years or is just, it didn't happen this year?
No, I think we had them. Brandon, didn't we have them this year? Didn't we approve them last? Yeah, I think we did.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we had them last year. We haven't had them this year.
2021.
February this year. It's normally the beginning of each year.
Right, no, I mean,
Natural Bridge is the beginning.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Yes, sorry.
yes.
Ms. Ayers? And the chair votes yes. We are consideration of the resolution petitioning the Commonwealth to accept all state responsible inmates into the state prison system.
Yes, the Code of Virginia requires the DOC to receive eligible inmates within 60 days of their sentencing. The Rockbridge Regional Jail routinely houses in excess of 200% of its rated capacity. Those housing challenges are exacerbated by the fact that despite good faith efforts, and I want to emphasize that, good faith efforts by the Virginia Department of Corrections, state responsible inmates historically stay in Rockbridge Regional Jail beyond the compliancy date when they should be transferred to the state correctional facility, and that does cost us money. The Commonwealth only reimburses our regional jail at a rate of $12 per day per state responsible inmate, and the true cost locally, the most recent cost that was provided to me was $52.46 a day, not $12 a day. And that's from the 2020 jail cost report published by the Virginia Compensation Board. Staff's been working with the Regional Jail Administration and other localities to form a request for the General Assembly to take up and resolve these issues. We've been in discussions with the Allegheny Regional Jail and member agencies there, and we collectively drafted a joint resolution that is in your package toward this goal. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. If you are in support, I would ask you that you approve the resolution, direct staff to provide a signed copy to Senator Deeds and Delegate Camp.
Any questions for Mr. Suter?
Only question I have is, of course, I support this, and it's one of the multitude of unfunded mandates, as the term goes. So I'm glad we're focusing on this. Do we intend to do one a month? Or, I guess, I mean, there are lots of other ones.
Oh, I thought you meant just repeating this one again.
No, I mean, including all the other, the unfunded, the ways that, it costs localities money for what the Commonwealth is supposed to do.
Yeah, I fully support it as well. And, it's costing us money and time to sign a resolution asking state to do what they're supposed to be doing in the first place.
I guess it's
This
just a
is
little
one of the-
gripe session.
I understand. This is one of the bigger items. I will say that Middle River Jail members are doing something very similar. Theirs is targeted more towards also having DOC accept them. We enjoy a good relationship with DOC. They're doing their best, but it is a big impact. So our region wanted to jump on this one as well and create our own.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah. So it's not just us. We have,
Correct.
so maybe this will, on this issue, and then we can move on to the next one.
Sure.
Regional effort.
If you'd like me to draft something on another issue, I will be glad to do it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Oh, yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you. All right, during our work session, we looked at the redistricting plans. Would the board like to, at this point, are they happy? Do they have one in mind? Do they want to take action?
From my point of view, option D is the best. Leave it at that.
Are we ready to move forward? If so, I'll entertain a motion.
If I may, before just to clear up the thoughts from the work session, I know Mr. Stone, said it's not going to affect us. Would it be more prudent to wait? I think D is the best plan so far, but who knows what could happen between now and then if you said we could. I understood before that we really didn't have the ability to wait much longer, but it seemed like I was hearing that we could.
It has, the state's kind of broken their rules anyway, because they didn't meet their deadline by October 23rd. I think that was the date. I think that one of the issues, could be moving ahead, depending on whether or not there's gonna be a primary, and the schedules and the requirements of some of these options to adopt are so long, they push way out. You could be into March, before you're actually able to adopt a plan and finalize it, which could impact folks' decisions as far as if they're going to primary. That's the only thing I can think of. And I don't have any information yet on exactly when the General Assembly is going to be able to adopt a plan.
I'm fine with moving ahead. I just wanted to clear up, see if there was any more advice on that.
Well, I mean, I assume if for some reason the state's decision has some sort of negative impact on ours, we could always come back to it and discuss again, correct?
Is that correct?
Yes, actually, you would have to. I don't think at this point you could act on the changes in precincts because that is just a proposal rather than an approved plan. So that would be left out of the current process for the redistricting.
I guess that's what I was trying to do, was save us rehashing it if we didn't have to.
Aren't they two different things though?
Ms. McDaniel, did you make a motion?
Yes, sir. To
Okay, so-
proceed with option D.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes. So if you move us forward.
I'll have any preference on the option or whether you want to advertise it for 30 days and hold a public hearing another 15 days after if any changes. The total period of time for that process would be 75 days at a minimum. The other option is to move forward with your normal notice and public hearing process. 2 publications prior to adoption of the ordinance. 60-day maximum beyond that adoption period for AG review. Then you could do a hybrid of those two. You could do the publication for 30 days. That would put you into, you could hold a public hearing the first meeting of January, then second meeting of January would be after the 30 days has run. You would have an opportunity to act then. And then from that point, go into filing with approval of the AG.
Do you have a preference or do you have one that found?
I think, given the current circumstances, I don't necessarily think this is always the way it should go. This is a whole new thing recently adopted by the legislature. But I think for this process, and because we will be doing it again to deal with the precincts and the state districting, I think we should go with our regular adoption. Well, I would suggest going with publication for 30 days so that you have a public hearing, your first meeting of January, consideration of adoption, your second meeting of January, but thereafter submitting to the AG for review.
Is there a preference?
I defer to this.
I do too.
So is that a motion and a second?
Yes, sir.
That second,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers? All right, Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Real quick, 6 o'clock is quickly approaching. Under appointments, we have Lee McLaughlin, who resigned from office from the Planning Commission. So we'll have to have a new appointee.
Mr. Chairman, I have an applicant. That was a Walker's Creek seat. We do have an applicant. I asked that Mr. Hoffman be approved.
Well, we're not, okay.
I'm sorry. Who?
The applicant, Timmy Hoffman.
Oh, yeah, I just didn't see the.
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
He served previously on that board.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is that, will you make that a motion, please?
I thought I did. It is a
I'm
motion.
sorry.
Yes, sir.
All right,
I
do we have,
move
a
that we approve Mr. Hoffman.
do we have a second? And a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. TCO. Again, we have that opening and to fill an unexpired term through February the 12th. Does anyone? We don't have anyone, just be on the lookout and try to encourage people. And we will also be looking for a community service board member after December. So those are those.
I did speak with someone Saturday evening who may be interested. So
Okay,
I
good.
encourage them to apply.
So we'll keep talking to the citizens. Hopefully they will step up and help us out. All right, 6 o'clock is upon us. It's time for public hearings. I'm gonna take liberty and make a few changes in the order before we get too far along, we're going to start with the ordinance to amend the county decal. Mr. Suter?
Yes, as you know, after a recommendation by the Board Finance Committee, the board directed staff to advertise establishment of a permanent decal beginning in the spring of 2022. The ordinance attached in your board package has been duly advertised and is prepared for public hearing. To date, my office has received one written comment from Mitchell Cochran, who we received this afternoon, who resides in the Buffalo District. We provided the board with an email copy of that and also a hard copy this evening, since we didn't get it till today. Key points of the ordinance include decal cost to be $25. It would apply to all decals registered in the county, as well as motorcycles and trailers. In the future, when a resident buys or trades a vehicle, motorcycle, or trailer, they would be required to buy a new permanent decal from the treasurer within 30 days of the purchase or transfer. If it is lost or destroyed, a new decal would need to be purchased. No future annual decal purchase would be required. The display requirement of the permanent decal would remain the same, no change as it is for now for the annual decal. Enforcement would remain with the sheriff's office, and the effective date to display the new permanent decal would be April 15th, 2022. There would be no annual sales of decals in the future, so there would need to be an adjustment in revenues. Based on estimates from Commissioner of Revenue, David Weitzel, who's in attendance with us, an annual reduction in revenue could be in the range of $300,000. And I believe Ms. Travato is here as well to help answer any questions of County Treasurer. And happy to try to answer any questions that you might have prior to or after the public hearing.
Okay, does anybody have any questions right now or comments before we go to the public hearing? All right, this time we'll open the public hearing. Is anyone signed up to speak? Okay, we have written email correspondence. You want to read into record, Mr. Stewart?
You know what? I'm gonna have to find it. There it is. Let's see. The following information offers an alternative to the proposal being considered by the Board of Supervisors. And I'm paraphrasing just slightly to save time. County stickers must remain to allow revenue for Rockbridge County. Rockbridge County stickers must be maintained to allow law enforcement to maintain control over non-county residents using dumpster sites, collection sites. The following proposal allows for both above uses to be met and improve revenue collection. Based on Mr. Cochran's research, there are 24,000 plus or minus registered vehicles in the county. This year, at $25 per sticker, revenue would be approximately $600,000. According to the treasurer of Rockbridge County, approximately 18,200 stickers, and when I say stickers, we mean decals, have been sold in 2021. Total revenue collected is $455,000. That's a shortage of $145,000. When speaking with the treasurer, she advised that the additional decals might be purchased later in the fiscal year. I would suppose this would come from new vehicles moving into the county. What is evident is that currently one out of every 4 vehicles in the county does not have a county sticker. Additionally, there is no current method to enforce having a sticker displayed. Please consider the following proposal. Maintain the current yellow sticker until October 2022 and August 2022, when personal property tickets are distributed. Include a permanent Rockbridge County sticker for each vehicle registered in Rockbridge County with a fee of $25 for each one that would be payable with personal property fees. Decal would remain with vehicle until sold, traded, or removed from use. If a taxpayer disposes of his or her vehicle, he or she could remove the permanent sticker and transfer same to a new vehicle or pick up a new one at no charge from the treasurer's office. New residents of the county would be given a sticker when they notify the Commissioner of Revenue of their move and be billed for the stickers in October. Each year, Rockbridge County would collect the entire amount from taxpayers without loss of revenue and would maintain a way to police unstaffed collection sites. Additionally, there would be a savings of no longer having to prepare mail for the county or the stickers in February and March. While I'm aware that Rockbridge County has projected sale of 470,000 next year, next April in the current fiscal year under this proposal, these funds will be lost. The funds will be collected at a higher rate the next fiscal year. The county has a surplus from increased vehicle values and pandemic funds that may cover this shortage. The proposal is for the future when there may not be surplus funds. There is no guarantee that used vehicle values will remain high for an extended period of time. No guarantee that COVID-19 or pandemic funds will be extended. These situations have led to the current increase in county funds, but it may not continue. Currently, law enforcement is hindered by recent legislation that will not allow stops for reasons such as the county sticker, no inspection stickers without their license plates. This has allowed citizens to cost the county of Rockbridge and the Commonwealth of Virginia loss of revenue. The proposal may correct the sticker issue as the current method to withdraw overdue taxes. As we are aware, Rockbridge County sticker is a form of tax. Signed, Mickey Cochran. Lists his telephone number that he is a Buffalo
Okay.
district resident.
Is there any other correspondence?
I have none.
Is there anyone raising their hand on Zoom or?
No, sir.
Okay, then at this time, we will close the public hearing. Comments from the board? Okay, hearing.
I think Mr. Cochran and I agree, and also I had one call from a former supervisor that read the article in the News Gazette. We cannot afford to lose the revenue by what was proposed, if I understood it right before.
Other comments?
Again, my citizens are much more concerned with the overall cost of personal property taxes, and they would like to see a reduction in those personal property taxes. I prefer that method in that it secures a base of revenue and a way to tax, one of the few ways that we have to get revenue. And as Mr. Lewis stated, the state is constantly giving us many things we need to pay for. So I prefer to lower the rate every year or raise the rate, whatever we may need in terms of budgeting, rather than give up a sole source of revenue and not be able to then do that the following year. So my preference.
Any other comments?
The decal is just an additional property tax is what it is. So I'm all in favor of looking at the personal property tax during budget season and seeing if we can lower that for our citizens as well. But the decal, it is what it is, just an additional tax. So if you're looking at saving the citizens money and reducing their tax burden, decal is one form of that. That's why I support it.
It also supports the citizens and the treasurer in the annual pilgrimage that results and costs everybody time and money in the time. And the money is handled, as Mr. McDaniel said, in the budget process every year already. So I of course see no reason to keep them, have not for a long time.
Okay. All right, I agree with Mr. McDaniels. It's a tax. So you can say what you want. If you eliminate it, you've reduced the tax burden for everyone that's currently has a vehicle.
And you've also, reduced it equally amongst everyone that has a vehicle. Whereas if some vehicles are more expensive than others, if you reduce the rate or change the rate, some people may see more of an impact than others. So this is equally across the board to all citizens that have a vehicle.
Any other discussion?
So we're foregoing this addition or this revenue, this amount of revenue.
I don't know that we're foregoing it. We are reducing taxes by that amount.
So how are we going to make up for the loss of the revenue.
Are we raising the personal property tax to,
You know, for 20 years, I presented the board of supervisors, a budget. And I could tell them what money was coming from the state compensation board to pay for salaries, what money I had coming from grants, what money I may have coming from a contract. Never really gave it a whole lot of thought. Well, where does the board come up with the rest of the money for a balanced budget? When I was appointed to take this seat on the board of supervisors, we were into the preparation or in the budget time, having to come up with a balanced budget. And for all of a sudden, so if we're going to give up $300,000 in revenue, have we been overtaxing our citizens for years?
No, sir, I don't believe that is the case. As has been stated previously, we did not adjust the personal property tax rate this past year. However, vehicle values have gone up, which has increased the revenue that we received off of personal property tax. So we do have a surplus there
I'm
from
all
this
for,
year.
I'm all for giving that back to
So
the citizens, the surplus, just not giving up the ability every year. Doing something with the windfall that benefits our citizens this year, absolutely. We weren't expecting it. Let's give it back to the citizens. But we don't know what to expect in 2 years. And that's my difficulty in planning ahead.
But we do know that we have some additional expenses that will be coming up if we continue on in the direction that we, and I think we have planned.
Can't disagree, but to me, again, all that's handled in the budget season through the personal property tax. This is an additional process that further makes that harder. So I respectfully, Mr. Day, I think we have, an immediate solution for not giving up the revenue, and then we have a solution, go forward for equalizing that rate.
What is that solution?
The budgeting process wherein we look at what revenue streams we have and determine where the rates need to be adjusted.
So in the future, when we're missing that $300,000, we're going to go to property taxes
If
or
we
personal
are,
property taxes.
that's the
if we
decision
are-
of the board each year, whether you increase revenues to account for the expenditures or you cut expenditures to the revenue levels that you have. That's the decision of each individual board each year during the budget process.
I can only speak to what my citizens the citizens in my district have said, and they're concerned about their personal property taxes overall, and they are concerned about their property taxes.
Any more comments? Okay, are there any motions to be made?
I'll make a motion to approve the change as presented.
I have a motion to approve the change. Do we have a second?
second,
And a second. Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
aye.
Ms. Ayers,
No.
Mr. Day,
No.
and the chair votes yes. Motion passes. We'll continue with the public hearings. Jeremiah and Sarah Holland.
The first public hearing we have this evening is Jeremiah Holland Special Exception Permit for a campground in the agricultural zone. If you bear with me here.
She logging on to the meeting.
I think I am on there. Oh, I should be a panelist. Yes.
Yep, gotcha. Okay.
Yes. All right, the first public hearing we have is a special exception permit for a primitive campground in agricultural zoning district. Little details on the project itself. It's located at 280 Rosalie Drive. Rosalie Drive is currently a private road on the north side of Timber Ridge. Timber Ridge is further identified as 716. Owned by Jeremiah Holland, located in the Henry Hill West subdivision that was approved in 2008. Tax map number 51-23-26A, and consists of 8.79 acres per tax records. The zone A2 agricultural and general use district, and there is currently one single family home improvement as far as on the tax rolls. Special exception is for a campground, again in the A2 zoning district. The picture on the right is an aerial photo of the 8.79 acres, and it shows the existing location of the dwelling there, some agricultural operations in the back, and then an existing location of the teepee. Again, the applicants have constructed a teepee on the property. It's a primitive campground, meaning no water, no sewer, or electrical hookups will be available. Porta johns will be provided. Currently, the current plan is having one campsite, but would like to be able to expand up to 3 campsites in the future. At the December 8th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and has recommended approval of the special exception with the following conditions. Number 1, campground is limited to primitive camp only. No motorhome, tow behind campers such as pop-up camper, toy haulers, teardrop trailers, stand-up trailers, etc., or other recreational vehicles permitted. Number 2, campground is limited to a total of 3 permitted camping sites. Number 3, no camping within 50 feet of any property line. Number 4, camping is limited to 6 vehicles, not to exceed 12 people in total. Number 5, finally, the approval is contingent upon VDOT approval, Office of Fire and Rescue, Emergency Management, and Health Department approvals. With that, I'd like to stop sharing my screen and turn the floor over to the applicants, Jeremiah and Sarah Holland.
Oh,
Thank you all for the meeting. We heard this wasn't going to happen this month, so we're happy this is going through. Chris pretty much laid it out all out on the table. We don't want campers or anything like that. We just want to have a primitive campground, have people come and to just break away, just see our beautiful county, see the stars, and just kind of unplug and relax here. We first started this. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. We started this with the intent of having some of my buddies who had PTSD that comes and just kind of break away from their existing situations, and it just kind of morphed into this plan that we have laid out. After last week's meeting, we approached the health department. We've had several calls with Mr. Royer. That application for the review and the application for the permit is all in the works. So that is going through. VDOT has inspected the entrance, and we're still waiting on that. We've also had fire and rescue, as far as I know, a favorable position with them as well. So we're trying to adhere to all the stipulations, and the ball is rolling. We don't want to do any more than 3. And we, just like everyone else, we enjoy our privacy, and we don't want to be married to that, so to speak. So it's this is something that allows us to give back.
okay. Any questions? All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing.
No one is signed up, but we recognize anyone would like to speak at this time.
Is there anyone online?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Then we will close the public hearing. Is there any board discussion? Is there any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
A second?
And a second. All right. Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes.
The next public hearing we have is for a bed and breakfast homestay in the residential zoning district. It is an application by Mr. Lucky. As far as the property details, it is the Lucky property is located at 1051 Ross Road. That's identified as State Route 687, owned by Andrew and Jennifer Lucky. Tax map number 74B-2-E, and it consists of 2.73 acres in the R1 zoning district, which is the general residential zoning district. Currently on the property is one single family dwelling improvement. A little bit about the special exception proposal itself. This is a use by special, due to the fact that it's in a residential zoning district, bed and breakfast homestays are used by special exception. Per section 302.24, a bed and breakfast homestay is defined as a short-term rental where overnight accommodations plus breakfast in a private owner-occupied home that provides 1 to 3 guest rooms for occasional bed and breakfast guests. Primary use remains as a resident, not as a lodging establishment. Signs generally not displayed on the property, and all reservations were made in advance. Income derived from the bed and breakfast activity is a source of supplemental income and usually does not represent a primary source of income. The plan is to rent out a addition of the home that's separated by an enclosed breezeway. The addition does include a kitchen, bathroom, living room, and 2 bedrooms. So it adheres to the 1 to 3 bedrooms in the same house. Property is served by private well water and public sewer. No conditions are recommended, which is historical with the historical bed and breakfast homestay approvals. They would, of course, have to adhere to the ordinance itself under 302.24, which is the definition of a bed and breakfast homestay. On October 8th, the Planning Commission held its public hearing on the application, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval of the special exception without conditions. With that, I'd like to turn the floor over to the landowner, Andrew Lucky, to review additional details of the project and answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Andrew Ludke, and I think the introduction summed up our property well, and I'm here for questions or comments.
Any questions?
So you intend to live there? I mean, you do live there, correct? That is your home?
Yeah, about 2/3 of the home is our family residence, and the other 2 rooms have a separate entryway. And previously, they were an in-law suite for the previous owners of the house. And so that part would be for our family when they're here from out of state or for Airbnb.
This is a question for Chris. Chris, if someone stopped living in their house, how would it expire? How does that work?
It would be prohibited through zoning. The ordinance itself, the definition of a bed and breakfast homestay, which is unique to the residential zoning district, requires it to be owner occupied. And so therefore, if it was not owner occupied and they were renting out the whole house, that they would be, in my opinion, for previous determination letters, they would be out of compliance with the definition itself.
Right. We've just had issues in the past on this particular thing. So I'm just wondering from the county's point of view, how they would going forward, how they.
Really twofold on that. One, again, if it was not owner occupied, it's my determination, it's the zoning administrator determination that they would be out of compliance. And also they would be prohibited to rent the entire house out at one time, the entire property, if you will. So it is limited per definition of 1 to 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
In an owner occupied dwelling.
Any other questions?
This does stay with the property though, right?
That is correct.
Be sold or,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
but those rules would still be in existence.
under
So
current zoning,
regardless
yes, sir.
of- Yes.
Yes.
Mhm. Is that what, was that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing.
There's no one signed up. but we can recognize anyone who will speak.
Is there anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. We're gonna change the order a little bit, Chris, and move ahead with the amendment of penalty on delinquent meal taxes. Ms. Huffman?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a request to amend the county code to correspond with state code to provide that the penalty for delinquent meals tax be amended to 10% for the first month and 5% for each month thereafter, up to a maximum of 25%. The proposed ordinance is included with your agenda.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Huffman? Okay, then we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up? Okay, anyone online?
No, sir.
Then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion? If not, I'll entertain the motion.
So this is just to fall in line with state code, right?
Right,
That's correct.
That's so moved.
we have a second
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. All right, Mr. Slayton. Hillsport Road.
Proceeding same order. Yes, sir. The next three public hearings we have are pertaining to the same piece of property. The first is the rezoning, proposed rezoning. All right, again, this is a public hearing for rezoning from the agricultural transitional zone, AT, and the agricultural and general use district, A2, to the residential, mixed use residential, excuse me. Property details, I'll switch around here for a second and make my pointer an outline or laser pointer here. The property in question or under consideration this evening is located on the east side of Steels Fort Road, further identified as 706, at the corner of Steels Fort Road and North Lee Highway, of course, Route 11, in the Fairfield area, north of Fairfield, south of Rafine. Tax map number is 40-2-1A, and the entire property consists of 30.83 acres total, and that breaks down to approximately 12.4 acres in A2, and that's located on the white here, and 18.4 acres in the AT. So to use my laser pointer here, the outline of the property starting in this southern corner parallels north, then goes back to Route 11, comes back along this shared property line all the way to Route 11, and then back around here, actually surrounding the Vaughn property. With that being said, this is a portion of the 30.83 acres under a rezoning request. The portion is 28.45 acres from the AT and A2 zoning district to the residential mixed. That would be the R2 zoning district. Applicant has submitted a proffered statement to develop the rezone portion of the property in accordance with the plan prepared by Blackwell Engineering, PLC. The plan calls for a construction of approximately 19 single-family dwellings, approximately 4 duplexes, 2 3-story multifamily condominium buildings, and 2 assisted living facilities. The assisted living facilities require a special exception permit and will be contingent upon the successful rezoning to R2. 18.72 acres is required per table 2 of the land development regulations, and approximately 28.45 acres are available. So this is the proffered plan here. I won't go over the details. I'll leave that for the applicant, and Mr. Ed Blackwell is in attendance tonight, the engineer on the project. So I'm actually going to skip this and then leave this back up when I turn the floor over to the applicant and Mr. Blackwell. But I would like to review on December 8th, 2021, the Planning Commission held its public hearing on the application and has recommended approval of the rezoning with the acceptance of the following proffer statement: that the development of the property portion of tax map number 40-2-1A, for which the application is being made, shall be in substantial accordance with the rezoning plan prepared by Blackwell Engineering PLC, titled Rezoning Preliminary Layout Blue Ridge Christian Homes North Campus, dated October 4th, 2021, with a revision date of December 9th, 2021. I will say, I apologize, but I did not get that the signed proffer statement until after y'all's package went out. So there is the revision date that's included that I do have the proffer statement. Before I turn over the floor, I will say that this is the revised date. And so at the Planning Commission level, the Planning Commission recommended approval with some changes, and that would be a double row of, I believe it's green giant arborvitaes along the north and the northwestern property line, and then some smaller tree species. I think they're called for American hollies or Nellie Stephen hollies on the south side of the Vaughn property. With that being said, I'm not going to stop sharing my screen quite yet and turn the floor over to Mr. Sean Wampler and Mr. Ed Blackwell. This still is a laser pointer if needed. Utilize it.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I'm Ed Blackwell with Blackwell Engineering. I can answer your technical questions, and Sean Wamper, he works with Blue Ridge Christian Homes. He can answer some of your operational questions and timelines, things like that. We have the property here. We have, in essence, 100 units, but that includes the 40 units of the assisted living, just beds. I say units, it's a bed, and so our density is pretty in line with what would be almost like a single family subdivision. You know, we're at 3-point-some acres per unit, and that's including these bedrooms. But so we have a lot of green space, open space. They show a lot of blue ponds, but I don't know if we'll have that many or not. We got all these new water quality regs we have to meet, so we'll have stuff on campus to come and collect our stormwater before it leaves the site. We are connecting to 2 places onto the main road. This will be a private road internal for the homeowners association. And our traffic is under any thresholds that VDOT has for traffic impact analysis. We haven't done that. Our traffic, if you think about it, we got 19 single family homes, 4 duplexes, so 8 more homes there. So it's only 27 in essence homes. The condominiums are like 1-bedroom flats, 1 or 2-bedroom flats for, I'll let Sean get into as they move up into the assisted living. So our traffic needs are residential in nature, and it's pretty low, and it doesn't even come close to meeting some VDOT thresholds.
So you've done a traffic study, or?
We did an analysis, and VDOT has looked at it. It just doesn't get close to the threshold. Typically, it's 100 trips a day. You start thinking, and of course, VDOT actually gets up into over 1,000 trips, not per day, per hour, peak hour, in the morning or in the afternoon. And we're not even coming close to those. The 27 single family or duplex will run a peak hour of about 30 cars an hour. And that, coming and going in the peak hour. So, and then the assisted living, just so we have employees, the residents just don't drive. It's not part of the Now, the condominiums, there'll be some transition there, but not a lot of cars there. Water and sewer nearby, there's actually public water right across the street. The sewer's down the road a little bit. We need to get it tied into it. It's about 600 feet away.
And there'll be fire hydrants.
Yeah, we'll have to meet internal. We'll have hydrants per county guidelines and once the county, the building and fire and rescue. And also the building regulations require, we'll have to have sprinklers in our condominium and our assisted living by code. Questions, John or I?
Any questions?
Is the assisted living, is it just AL, is it IL, memory care? What?
So we consider this an expansion of the Beulah South Campus, we'll call this one the Beulah. So the assisted living homes should be private pay, not for profit, under Beulah Christian homes. They wouldn't be considered memory care, although a lot of the care we do is you sort of had the age of place kind of theme going where you could have move into a single family, of course you duplexes a little bit even less than that, and then you can have the multi-family where it can be smaller indoor, and and then just have people. A lot of times we'll have a husband or wife within the home and need a place to stay. And of course, right there on Bill Ramp that we have now, we have 10 people like and they sort of are self-limiting. We do private ownership of everything, so unlike the CCRCs, whereas you do a buy-in to 100,000 and you pay so much per month, and they kind of appreciate your funds and whatever that determines over time. Ours would just simply be private pay for the healthcare center, and also private purchase for duplexes and single families, and probably the multi-family.
I'm sorry, I don't really understand what you mean by private pay. It just means it's a.
Sure. So would not. So the size that it is doesn't lend itself to Medicaid. They wouldn't approve it even if you try. But so it would just be just out of pocket expense for the care, which is what's currently there in right now.
So no Medicaid will, Medicaid funds will not pay for it.
If you wanted to buy into the community, that's to make your pocket, not extra.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be so many, like 60 or so many beds for a building.
Any other questions?
I understand what you're saying about the traffic, the volume, but with an assisted living facility, I'm assuming you'll have trucks in and out with food or will you do laundry on site? I mean, I'm obviously the number of cars won't be that much. I'm just wondering about.
That's generally once a week.
Okay.
So these are people that we do once a week. We do use Virginia.
It's a Stanton.
Stanton. That's
Stanton.
Yeah, so they do that. That's normally a once a week pickup as well. So generally speaking, that's really nothing.
Okay.
And like Ed said, the residents in all years, we never had a car in danger. So you would have families, and that varies from those that are pretty actively involved to those that are a little bit less.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing.
Yes, sir. Prior to, I do have one written comment. I'll check to see if anyone signed up. Prior to that, I would like to just review some details to ensure we're all on the same page with the assisted living. Some questions came up. So what the Office of Community Development is considering assisted living in this particular case are the 220 room unit buildings. And so that would be unit number 1 here, if you will, and then unit number 2. We do not consider, because these are for sale and they're not owned by the corporation, we do not consider the single family dwellings nor the multifamily dwellings or the duplexes part of the assisted living facility there. Another portion on the road. Of course, with any project of this size or really any special exception comes before y'all, we do have, in this case, we've had multiple conversations with VDOT as far as their preliminary review of the two entrances. I will note that Steele's Fort, unusually enough, as far as the crossroads south and north, this Steele's Fort Road does have a bona fide left and right turn lane, unlike the others that we have, up and down Route 11. With that being said, the site will be served by a loop road, as you can see, with two separate entrances on Steele's Fort Road. While the road is proposed to be private per section 904.02-2, the road is required to be designed to VDOT rolling terrain standards. So I would like to make that note as well, that the current plan is for the road to remain private, but it will have to be built to this because of the number of dwellings and units it's serving. It will be required to meet VDOT rolling terrain standards. Sorry, did not include that in the first part. We have no one signed up, but we do have one written comment I'd like to review. This is from Peggy G. Vaughn, dated December 6, 2021, addressed to the County of Rockbridge County Administrator and to the County of Rockbridge Director of Community Development. This correspondence to you regarding the information I received from you recently for a special exception application made by Sean Wampler, Melvin Bender. They are asking for a special exception permit to construct and operate a retail, construct and operate a continuing care facility, and to construct single-family housing and multifamily dwellings off of 706 and North Lee Highway. Since the acreage involved in all of this construction surrounds my property located at 40 Steele's Fort Road, I am very concerned on the impact that it would have on me and neighboring residents. First, it would increase the volume of traffic on 706, which is heavily used as a cut through to Rafine Road and all development and high traffic at the intersection. I do wonder why Mr. Wampler, Mr. Bender would not want to construct their country store at that location, which is already commercially oriented. I do not see the need or value of construction of a retail business in the middle of otherwise residential and farming location. I currently mow to the right of way and keep trash cleaned up on 706 from Route 11 to Morris Trail Road. And I can only imagine the extra time involved and the increase of traffic and the retail operation. I do realize that the property involved is Mr. Bender's, and he does have a financial investment in it, but I'm hopeful that he will consider the community at large. I am a 79-year-old single woman living in a tight fixed income. I am sure that this development around me, the value of my home will decrease while the property tax will increase. Will he be prepared to help his neighbors offset that? I don't think so. In closing, I would remind the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Supervisors that Lee Highway Route 11 is a scenic highway. However, if land developed and constructed continues, it will appear as all other places that are consumed with development for individual gain. I ask you to review my concerns and convey to all parties involved in this zoning hearing, i.e. Board of Supervisors and Planning Board. Thank you, Peggy G. Vaughn. With that, we do not have anyone else signed up to speak, but we may recognize anyone.
And there's no one online.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion among the board?
Here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Sorry.
Chris, can you go back to the screen there? The residential areas, I know where was and I know we haven't got to the retail piece of it. Where's the retail store going?
And can we see will you pull up the owner, the neighbors?
Sure, absolutely. Best thing to do is let me share my screen again. Bear with me here. All right, so the first fold is obviously the single family dwellings are located in this. The majority of the single family dwellings are located in this area here. Assisted living facility number 2, assisted living facility number 3, condominium number 1 or multifamily number 1, multifamily number 2. It goes back to 2 single family dwellings And then these are the this is the duplex complex itself. As far as the country store, which is a use by special exception in the A2 and AT zoning district, is located here on the corner of Steels Fort Road and Route 11. The Vaughn property that I read her comments during the public hearing process is a 4-acre, I believe it's a 4-acre piece of property that is located here. She does have a single family dwelling on that property.
And it was the planning commission recommendation that it was to retain a certain amount of green space, or the property in the middle there, is that developable down the road?
There are, so with a rezoning process, it could theoretically be yes. Now, this same process would have to be initiated to amend the rezoning plan. We do have a proffered statement by the current landowner, Mr. Belvin Vendor, that is proffering to develop the property in substantial accordance with this plan here. And so it does have open space, open area located right here, another open area located here, and then the Vaughn property located here. And I say open area because I haven't gone as far as to figure out if that's required green space. I do believe it's a correct statement. It will be a subdivision review, and obviously I'll look at it a little bit more detailed, but all of these lots, at least the single family dwellings, I can confirm are over the minimum lot size. So while it looks like a cluster subdivision, it may or may not be approved as a cluster subdivision. It's with a residential zoning district, R2, it's a 1/4 acre lot size. And all of these are, if I remember correctly, approximately 13,000 square feet, exceeding a 1/4 acre.
So that interior part is not necessarily a required green space.
It will be with this rezoning plan, yes, ma'am. But not under a cluster subdivision, but potentially not under a cluster subdivision. So I did want to make that clear.
Can you pull up the planning, the planner's recommendations? Planning Commission again?
It is on December 8th, the Planning Commission held its public hearing and recommended approval of the rezoning application with acceptance of the following proffer statement: that the development of the property, and of course it's a portion, 28.45 acre portion of the existing tax map 40-2-1A, for which the application is being made, shall be in substantial accordance with the rezoning plan prepared by Blackwell Engineering PLC, titled Rezoning Preliminary Layout, Blue Ridge Christian Homes North Campus, dated October 4th, 2021, with the revision date of December 9th, 2021. So with that, this is the plan that is dated December 9th, 2021, which of course is the day after the Planning Commission, because they added the buffering requirement between the Fitzgerald property here, the Gerhardt, I believe it is, located here, and then the addition of the won't necessarily call it a full-blown buffer, but the Nellie Stevens and or Holly Stevens in this area here, south of the Vaughn property, on vendor's land, obviously, but south of the Vaughn property. And the primary concern, I will say the primary concern is the main entrance, the entrance to the general store is located on this private portion. Then you turn into the parking lot here. The general store is here. So obviously wintertime, during dark hours, if you will, the potential of headlights coming out of the parking lot onto the Vaughn property was a concern with the Planning Commission.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
Move that we approve the request for the zoning change.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
The next application, the next two are pertaining to the same piece of property. Excuse me, this next one was contingent on, this next one being the assisted living facility, was contingent on the successful rezoning to R2. With that being said, bear with me here. I'm going to try to cruise through it, but I do have a brief PowerPoint presentation. Same applicant, same landowner. This is a special exception for assisted living. As far as the property details, very verbatim, the last one. Won't go over the details, but it is on the 28.4 acres in the R2 zoning district owned by Melvin Bender. The special exception details is the application is to construct and operate a assisted living facility in the R2 zoning district. The project is considered an expansion of Beulah Land Campus in Fairfield. 2 buildings, each consisting of 2 units, beds on 2 separate parcels. One is a 9.7 acre lot and the one is a 6.65 acre lot. The buildings will be accessed through a privately maintained road off of Steele's Fort, Route 716. Each facility will be served by approximately 15 employees. Excuse me, I'll make sure I didn't miss anything. Served by county public water and public sewer. Each building has 11 parking spaces and development meets the requirements in 703 and 713 of the land development regulations. This is verbatim the same plan that was explained at last public hearing. I will leave this up for Mr. Blackwell and Mr. Wampler to review. But as far as the planning commission goes, on December 8th, the Planning Commission held its public hearing on the application. The commission recommended approval of the special exception permit following the following condition. Number 1, substantial compliance of the site plan entitled rezoning, preliminary layout, drawing 1 and 2, and plat entitled rezoning, preliminary plat, all dated October 14th, 2021, on file with the Office of Community Development with a revision date of December 9th, 2022. I would also like to recommend that this did not get in there, and I apologize, but that this approval, condition number 2, that this approval would be contingent upon VDOT, Public Service Authority, and TCO, Tourism Corridor. This project, along with the next one, the country store, will have to go through the Tourism Corridor overlay due to its location on Route 11. With that being said, I would like to turn the floor back over to Mr. Wampler and Mr. Ed Blackwell to review the details. And I can, if I can keep this up as well.
Ready for any questions? One thing that we got to this point, this is where maybe it was at the rezoning, but Mr. Fitzgerald, the farmer behind us, was concerned about, working in the farm at night. So that's what we agreed to the double row of arborvitae, the big fat green line on the right of the drawing. It's actually a bunch of little trees in there. But so we're more than happy to do that. Be a good neighbor. He's been a good neighbor in that area of the county for decades. So we want to be reciprocal neighbor to him. So that was the main thing that we added that jointly affects the assisted living. We're also by proffering the plan, it came up in the rezoning, that common area that goes all the way down to Miss Fitzgerald, not Miss Barnes. We're planning no buildings, just kind of leave it open. We hadn't decided we're going to put walking trails. Yeah.
And there's swales in there. It's almost not.
Well, would it be possible to do some woodland planning for your, especially for your stormwater management?
Our assisted living homes are, I wouldn't say 100 feet, but they're so high above that intersection down at Country Store and Miss Vaughn's house. If we plant some trees right on top, our homes are on up some. So I'm
not talking about blocking views
Oh,
right
just
now.
put
I'm
some
simply
trees.
for your
Well,
stormwater management.
we haven't discussed that. When we get into the site plan process, the more I can put in open space, it does save him financially for the water quality requirements that DEQ has.
So the more trees, right? They'll
Right.
let
If I
fewer.
plant some areas of open space, plant some trees and leave it, that I have to designate in like an easement, working with the DEQ, that does save him it offsets the nutrient requirement. So we haven't got to that level yet. Most likely we'll do something like that. We just hadn't designed it that far.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just, one little question. So the store, is this mostly a portion of your development, or is this kind of for Route 11 people try, I mean, I'm trying to get a sense of.
So it's both. It is both. It's not just an amenity for the subdivision. Our goal is to, we like to involve the generations together instead of it just being like, exclusive to just, older people, whatever, to bring them in. And one of those ways that we thought we could really kind of facilitate that would be also to bring some of the community onto the property and allow there to be kind of this intermingling there too. So it's sort of like a little mingling spot as well, versus kind of like in a subdivision where you have an amenity, a clubhouse or something like that. And we were hoping to give less of the community, and bring some quality in there as well as kind of something that the residents could do as well.
At one time, it was talk of a cheese shop, coffee shop.
Right.
You're talking something still.
That's kind of what we were hoping for in there, was to be able to have you have the cheese shop in Sewer Shaft, I haven't been there for a while, but more of just a bulk foods. Yeah, like a bulk food store. But it'd be nice to be able to have a section where we could have, some deli, a place where people could actually mingle and sit and talk and have coffee or something like that. So that's kind of our desire for that, which I guess is the next section. But have a preview for that, so.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing.
There's no one signed up to speak at this time.
Any written correspondence?
No written correspondence. I will say that the bond application, or the bond written comments, of course, applies.
Right. Right.
No online.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion among the board?
Mr. Slayton, it's for the next one, but along the lines of, I think, Mr. Day's questions, why it looks like that the request for rezoning from AT to R2 wasn't for the store section. I guess that's because that's a store, but is there any more light you could shed on that? What's the
country
general
stores
thought
are
process there?
country stores are a use by special exception in the A2 and AT zoning district.
I see.
And they are not a permitted
Yeah.
use nor a use by special exception in the residential zoning district. That's going off memory, but I'm confident.
Well, yeah.
Any other questions? Comments?
And so I do apologize. This condition was not in your package, but number two, staff's recommendation, if you will, would be to add a number two condition stating approval contingent upon final VDOT, Office of Fire and Rescue and Emergency Management, Public Service Authority, and Tourism Corridor overlay approvals for the assisted living facility.
Do we have a motion?
Well, actually, I have then a question.
Oh, okay.
If we just added that, I think that, the VDOT, the fire and rescue, that stuff sort of makes sense. But if explain to me again what exact role the TCO plays. I understand the acronym, but
Sure, certainly.
let's flesh that out just a hair.
The TCO per ordinance, the TCO is required to review all commercial development and multifamily development within the corridor. And so with the off preliminary review, we would consider the assisted living facility commercial development.
So what What do,
I apologize. Yes, I understand your question. So, so the role of the TCO, this was outside of the TCO district, which in this case is Route 11, the Planning Commission would have the full-blown site plan approval. And so with the TCO, since it's within the TCO district, the TCO board will review not only the site plan, but also the elevations, the color schemes, those type of aesthetics, architectural review board. And so twofold with the TCO. One is the site plan approval, and then also the building elevations. If it is been determined that it can be seen from Route 11, I should say, on this particular assisted living facilities. And multifamily, but that's not part of the assisted living application.
Very good. Okay. Any motions?
I move that we approve the request.
With that change, with that addition?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
aye.
and chair votes yes.
Right, bear with me here. The last special exception, excuse me, the last public hearing we have on this particular property is a special exception to construct and operate a country store. If you do, bear with me here, I do a brief PowerPoint presentation. This is a portion of the property that was not considered for the rezoning. It's located on the corner of Steels Fort Road, 706, and North Lee Highway, of course, Route 11. It's a portion of tax map number 40-2-1A. We reviewed the details of what was previously in the A2 and the AT zoning district. This particular proposed site will consist of approximately 2.38 acres after the subdivision. Current owner is Mr. Melvin Bender. The application is to construct and operate a general store in the A2 AT zoning district. I would like to take the time to read the definition of a general store under 302.95 of the land development regulations. A general store country is considered a single store which offers primarily most of the following articles: bread, milk, cheese, fresh meats, vegetables, canned and bottled foods, drinks, tobacco products, candy, papers, and magazines, and general hardware articles. Gasoline may be offered for sale, but only as a secondary activity of the general store. The building size is approximately 10,000 square feet, with approximately 2/3 of the building being dedicated to retail space. The store is proposed to help service residents of the proposed development and members of the surrounding area. Per section 302 of the land development regulations, 34 parking spaces are required for this size store and 35 are being provided. This proposal is to be serviced by county public water and public sewer. This is the special exception details. This is the same December 9th, 2021 plan. I will add a vegetative buffer of a single row of tree shrubs 10 feet in width and approximately 10 feet in width and approximately 15 feet in height at maturity will be installed across the private portion of the road, or private road, I should say, along the shared property of the Vaughn. And that, of course, will be on the Bender property, but on the south side of the Vaughn property. With that, the plan on December 8th, 2021, the Planning Commission held its public hearing on the application, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval of the special exception following the condition. Substantial compliance with site plan entitled Rezoning Preliminary Layout, drawing number 1 and 2, and plat entitled Rezoning Preliminary Plat all dated October 4th, 2021, on file of Office of Community Development with a revision date of December 9th, 2021. I will add that, again, I apologize, but it's also recommended, staff's recommendation that we add a number 2, approval contingent on final VDOT, Office of Fire, Rescue and Emergency Management, Public Service Authority, and Tourism Corridor overlay approvals. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn the floor back over to Mr. Ed Blackwell and Mr. Sean Wampler.
Back again. I think we've covered a lot. I do want to mention the trees that we're putting on this edge of our road between us and Miss Vaughn. You know, we got this nice row of hollies. She has a nice, well-cared lawn and nice Christmas ornaments. But she also, what we don't want to do, we're showing all the trees, but I like to go on record. If she wants us to stop the trees, because we may block her view some, we'll work with her. You know, we're planning on putting them all in, but if she wants some reduced closer to the road, we like that option to reduce it at her request, not our request. We're knowing we have to put them all in, but if she says, could you stop at this certain location, we'll stop it. We'll coordinate with Chris and the county at site plans stage. But that was the reason we put the trees, is to help block that. Any other questions?
You don't, at this time, don't plan on having gas? Okay.
Okay, thank you. This time we'll open the public hearing.
There's no one physically signed up at this time. We'll recognize everybody.
No one online.
And no further written. Any discussion on the board? Is there a motion?
I move we approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second? Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
And chair votes yes. Thank you.
The last public hearing we have this evening for the Office of Community Development is a proposed zoning text amendments for wood yards. I'm happy to say I do not have a PowerPoint presentation for y'all, but I do have the proposed zoning text amendment that I would like to share on the screen. Do. Yes. So the information is in your package. What we have is a proposed ordinance associated with the wood yards itself. What I'd like to do is just generally go over the intent. And so this has been discussed, I should say, since the August Planning Commission meeting. And so what we have proposed is defining wood yards and then providing for wood yards with regulations in the agricultural general A2 zoning district and the agricultural limited A1 zoning district. So currently we have wood yards, we have undefined that wood yards are provided for in the industrial zoning district, but we do not have a definition. So moving forward, we always like to define them. So the first proposed change is the definition of wood yards, the draft definition of wood yards under 302.229A. And that would define wood yards as any parcel of land or portion thereof, which where the primary use of the land is for commercial sorting and marketing of logs. Moving on further down, it's a proposed amendment to A1, and that would be adding section 602.03-14 that would allow for wood yards as a special exception in the A1 zoning district, with subject to the provisions set forth in 716, which we'll get to here in seconds, draft 716. The next one, scrolling down, is the proposal to do the same in the A2 zoning district. That would be to provide wood yards by use by special exception in 603.03-25. And that's verbatim the same language. Wood yards subject to the provisions set forth in 716 of these regulations. Now moving on to the industrial zoning district, as mentioned. Let me see if I can get this all on one page. As mentioned, currently wood yards are permitted use in the industrial zoning district under section 607.02-10, and they include a sort of a group of uses. That would be coal and wood yards, lumber yards, feed and seed stores. So our proposal, the Planning Commission's proposal, if you will, is to remove wood yards under this per section 607.02-10, remove them from that section, and then provide them as a permitted use as they are right now. So it doesn't change the permitted use in the industrial zoning district, but they would be subject to provisions set forth in 716.01 of the regulations. So that brings me to the actual use regulations itself. We have Article 7 is our existing use regulations. And so the Planning Commission staff and Planning Commission has worked on the following regulations or additional criteria associated with wood yards. And so again, in the industrial zoning district, only number 1 would apply. In the agricultural zoning districts, and that would be limited to the A1 zoning district and A2 zoning district. All 3 of these would apply. So briefly, I'd just like to review those prior to open up the public hearing. So section 716.01 states, in addition to these regulations stipulated in section 608.13 of the regulations, the placement or storage of logs in the flood hazard zone is only allowed if properly secured on the site in accordance with a sealed plan prepared by a professional engineer licensed with the Commonwealth of Virginia. Draft number 716.02, no use of machinery, grading or sorting of logs, loading or unloading of trucks, or other activities creating excessive light or noise shall be constructed between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. with the exception of 1 or 2 idling trucks waiting to be unloaded. And number 3, more particularly 716.03 states that a vegetated buffer along all property lines and public roads shall be required at a minimum of 50 feet in width and shall otherwise comply with section 13.03-05 of the County of Land Development Regulations, except may be modified by the Planning Commission as provided therein. I would like to just briefly go over what you see here is in purple is what was modified. The language was modified at the Planning Commission meeting. And so that's sort of the colored coding, same information that's in your package there, but just wanted to explain the difference between the blue language and then the purple language. The only modification that I'd like to talk about since the Planning Commission that Ms. Huffman and I reviewed just this afternoon is the vegetative buffer along all property lines shall be required at a minimum of 50 feet, otherwise comply with section 1302.05 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations, except may be modified by the Planning Commission. I emphasize Planning Commission because we would recommend, staff would recommend striking Planning Commission because in special exceptions, as you know, Planning Commission plays an advisory role. And so we copied this language out of 1303.05, which is the existing buffer requirements. And throughout that section, it does have the Planning Commission that has the ability to modify the landscaping requirements. But in hindsight, we would think that would be better suited for the governing body. And so in this particular case, if the Board of Supervisors agree, we would just say may be modified and strike out by the Planning Commission, remove that language, and then just say as provided therein. With that, I'd like to turn this back over to the chair.
Okay, we'll be ready to open the public hearing, but I'd like to remind everybody, we will suspend the public hearing if we're not done at 7:30 for the Blue Ridge Resource Authority, and then reopen it at the conclusion of that. So at this time,
Chairman, I just had a couple questions about the ordinances.
Okay.
I would, what, could I address
Ask them
those
now?
before? Yeah. Mr. Slayton, section 607.02-10, where we're pulling out lumber yards in the industrial district.
Pulling out wood
Pulling
yards.
out
yes,
wood
sir.
yards. What is in the prevailing wisdom there? What's the difference between a wood yard and a lumber yard?
Well, we currently don't have a definition for a wood yard. We are now proposing a definition for a wood yard. And that's just that it would be the commercial sorting and marketing of logs, opposed from a lumber yard that would not be a raw material of logs, but versus cut lumber, if you will.
I see. Okay. 71601. Where we're talking about the engineering plan. What exactly is properly secured? Or is it could?
That
expound
would
on
be,
that?
and we've had other discussions this afternoon. That would be properly secured in a high water. And I actually have some draft language that we could utilize during high water events, including up to 100-year storm events. So the intent of the ordinance certainly is to have a seal plan by a professional engineer licensed with the Commonwealth of Virginia to be able to ensure that the logs can properly be secured on the site and not be detrimental to downstream owners, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the sentiment. I guess I'm just struggling with what exactly that imposes, so maybe.
It would
later
require
on,
that, in my opinion, it would be required that the logs would be properly secured on the site, that the ability for the logs to be secured on the site.
Guaranteed by the engineer's plan, sealed plan.
It would be in accordance with a sealed plan prepared by a professional engineer. Now we can get into the guaranteed part with the discussion, and I may have to lean on other staff members for that guaranteed portion of it.
Well, I guess that's our point. Sure.
Well, and I guess every site is different, which is why, of course, I just don't think we need any of this and use the special exception process. But yeah, I mean, I'm struggling with that, what that's going to mean. I mean, is that a 50-foot high concrete wall? I mean, I just, and I don't know that we can answer that till we, if we were to talk about a specific side, that sort of thing. But that's just what worries me. But it doesn't sound like, it just doesn't sound like we can answer that right now, I guess, what that means. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I can answer that it is required to be properly secured on the site. How that has happened.
Yes,
that is why I cannot answer that.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
just,
yes,
just so you know that I'm struggling with that one. All right. 71602, no use of machinery, grading or sorting of logs. Is it by grading? Are we talking about the type of log and the value of the log and that sort of thing?
That is correct.
Does that make noise or light? I mean,
sorting-
why is that in there, I guess? is what
So we did this to back up a little bit. A lot of this information, especially 716.02, we piggybacked off of existing conditions associated with, at a minimum, 2 special exceptions for sawmills. And of course, we're all aware that sawmills not only have the milling activity on site, but they also have a wood yard on site as well. With that being said, we really piggybacked off of some common language of those 2. Now the grading, I will agree with you that the grading would not generate noise, but certainly the sorting, the
Sure.
sorting of it would.
Well, so I'm just looking at the language. I mean, that's what we're here for, I think. So, all right, thanks for helping me answer that.
Was there a request for the 10 PM or the time frame there?
There was I won't say significant amount of discussion, but there was some discussion at the planning commission level. And again, to reiterate it, 716.02 really piggybacked off of 2 other two other special exception process that has that similar language. If I recall correctly, one goes to 10:30 p.m. and one's at 11 p.m. as far as the cutoff for noise activities. Again, on sawmills, that's not to say that it obviously is not only for wood yards, because we don't have a wood yards, standalone wood yards in the agricultural zoning district. And the purpose of that is, and there may be some public hearings to attest to this, that obviously these logs are coming all over the state and sometimes out of state. And when the logger finishes up at 5:30 on a winter night, if you will, sometimes some ample time for them to be able to come and drop off the logs at this particular, or at a wood yard, I should say.
Could those times be site specific, or if we approve it the way it is, anybody that applies can do it up till 10 o'clock? Or could we eliminate the time restraints and make that part of the special use?
You could eliminate, I'm sort of asking Vicky this while speaking, you could modify these times or eliminate the times altogether. Yes, sir.
Right, because I could be out in the middle of nowhere and it's not going to matter.
Yes.
But I could be with neighbors surrounding me, and it might not be the noise, but I don't think they can work in the dark. So.
Well, you could be within 50 feet of another.
Right,
according
that's
to
what I'm
number
saying.
3,
That's
you're 50
why
feet.
I think it ought to be site specific. Just my opinion.
Certainly agree with that.
Okay, let's get the public hearing because
Come on, stop share.
and we'll open the public hearing.
First one signed up to speak is CS 50.
And please state your name and your magisterial district, and you have 3 minutes. And there's a light there, guys.
Real name is Calvert S. Fitzgerald II. I live at 7725 North Lee Highway. I'm in the South River District. My family has been in the lumber log industry for close to 100 years now. That's my grandfather. I just would like to stress that there's a lot of areas in our county that a log yard would benefit an agricultural area. But there's a lot of families and a lot of people that make a living off of the timber industry. So just would like to see y'all fix this to where, people can do that. It's totally different. My background was in the sawmill business. My family sold out. I'm now in the trucking business of the log side of things. And a log yard is a different animal than manufacturing. There's a little less noise. The reason for the planning commission that we asked for the 10 o'clock is if you have any trouble getting in to get unloaded, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it could be right beside a house or whatever. That's the same reason I asked for the trees along the buffer of that place, because I could be chopping corn at 1 o'clock and I want to be as neighborly as I can be. So, but just keep that in mind when you're deciding on doing this, that there's a lot of areas that could benefit having a log yard.
Thank you.
That is all that signed up.
Okay.
Recognize others.
Good evening, Jerry Deacon, Carrs Creek District. We run a sawmill right on the edge of Carrs Creek District. And we got some restrictions that we go by and we're comfortable with them. I think we work from, if I'm not mistaken, it's from 5:30 to 11 o'clock, but we don't. We work from 6 to 4:30. On Friday, we shut down at 12. We don't work on weekends unless it's emergency. If we got to do something, we ought to have a right to do it. Far as the logs being washed downstream, logs are pretty heavy. In fact, they're heavier than hay. So I think we need to consider the hay that's piled up along our fences and in our flood zones. Maybe you want to put some nets on the farmer's land or something. I don't know, but I do understand y'all wanting to put some guard just for safety's sake, but I cannot understand. Well, it's not I can't understand, but logs are heavy, and it takes a good bit of water to move, and I don't think Carrs Creek gets so wide. And if it does get wide, it's got plenty of areas
to diminish, to go about. But these are good company. We have worked with them for several years. We have sold to them, bought from them. They have run out of space. They need a better area, and that place right there is a nice place. It's close to interstate. Far as working at night, I don't think they want to work at night. I don't want to work at night. But the noise is not, I wouldn't say would be any worse than what BB Ayers and Son had there before they left. They got a loader, a couple loaders maybe running. The worst thing that we have in our business is the backup beeper. That bothers people more than anything, but we got to have them, and we should have them. But I just urge y'all to work with these people. They trying hard. They trying very hard, and they very, very good people. They're very good people. They're good for the county. Let's put it that way. They're very good for the county. They help us a lot. So thank you.
I think, Mr. Deacon. Any electronic?
No, sir.
Anybody else? Is there anyone that didn't sign up that wants to speak? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing for discussion.
I asked some questions earlier. I struggle with where we're going here. I think initially to me the piece that I'm not seeing with all this, because the point of this is to further agriculture, and I see timber as agriculture. So the sort of the jump to commercial, it's hard for me, which is what's driving some of these restrictions. I think, if it was just agriculture, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be discussing that. But if they're buying and selling, I can see some, commercial definition there. But into the specifics, I would want to, remove the grading language from that O2. We're already doing, if we require an engineering plan, that's, I can't severely disagree with that, but what gets into the properly secured, obviously that's a problem. But I think we also need to be careful about the level of requirements that we're putting on. The 50-foot buffer, we just approved a subdivision that had 10-foot of buffers. So to me, logs, an agricultural product, Mr. Deacon's point of likening that to hay rolls is somewhat, I just don't see it as that a harsher thing to be looking at. So I struggle with 50 foot, and that's along 4 sides. And, again, back to the special exception process, I think that's what takes care of all these questions. But 50 foot, on a 2-acre lot, you've taken half of it up with buffer if you try to go all the way around. So I struggle with that. The times I agree with, but I'm coming at that from, I don't agree with, I'm coming at that from an ag, point again, where that's just not something that I really see we need to have. We have a noise ordinance in the county already. I just think we're putting a lot in here that the special exception process takes care of.
What do we have a noise?
Yes, we certainly do have.
Okay. To barking dogs. It doesn't pertain to barking dogs. Right, that's right.
Amplified music and audible voices, I believe.
Right.
I believe I tend to agree with Mr. Lewis in that if you still have the special exception process, to Mr. Lyons' point, it depends on where the location of the property is. It could be in the middle of nowhere that, it doesn't matter about the noise, lighting, the buffer, or anything else. Could be next to a subdivision where it does matter. So I'm just wondering, I guess to Mr. Lewis's point, do we really need all of this in here, or is it more special exception per property?
Well, I think we have to look at each piece of property, but I do think each property ought to have, since we don't have a county engineer, someone that knows the science better than we do to say that, yeah, it'll work on this piece of property if this, and this is done. So, I'm willing to strike 716.02 totally, and those can be determined when people apply. But I think they ought to know before they apply that while they can apply for any piece of land, that we're going to have assurances by people that know more than we do that logs can be safely stored there. And I don't think that's too much to ask of everybody.
No, I mean, I don't. And the other thing was and I think Mr. Lewis asked about the securing of the logs. How's that going to be interpreted?
Are you looking toward me?
Sure.
Well.
Because, I mean, my question would be,
I think you get a sealed plan from an engineer indicating how something is to be secured. And then the business owner proceeds under the plan if the Board of Supervisors issues the special exception permit. Now, the permit may be even more restrictive than what's provided here. This is the minimum. So when the board hears it, you can say, well, I deem that to be an adequate plan and will approve it with this condition. Or you could say, we'll approve it with this condition, with this plan, but we want to see these additional restrictions also to ensure that it's properly secured on the site.
Special exception.
It is put in there to address a concern in a flood zone. And so instead of just striking flood zones, this was the idea to try to fix that issue. But what I don't understand from the wording, are you saying that the engineer is guaranteeing that these logs will stay in place during a flood event?
There's no guarantee of anything.
That's my point.
and why would
So
it?
why would we that's the issue that I have in saying that they should be allowed in a flood zone. Well, what I am thrilled with the idea of being able to take agricultural property and be able to have wood yards instead of just limiting it to industrial. That shouldn't happen. I mean, I understand that and I support that. Other counties, for very good reason, are restricting this use from flood zones. So we could go back to just restricting from flood zones, or.
Well, except for the fact that you throw out the term flood zone and it has so many various definitions. I know a person that lives on top of a hill and part of his house was in a flood zone until he went through all these hoops and said, look, how can you flood on top of a hill? I mean, I guess you could, but you'd have to build an ark then because everybody around would be flooded. There are some areas that are classified as flood zones, and I've never seen a flood in 150, 200, 300 years, but could they? Well, I guess they could, but it's probably not very likely. You could have an engineer look at a site and say, if this, and this are done, the logs will stay in place with relative certainty. But like I said, there's no guarantees. If you're going to put it on the side of a hill, engineer would have to, have a whole lot tougher problem, keeping logs on the side of a hill. So there are a lot of ifs, but I think, if you're going to be in agriculture and we've got experts, we trust the experts to tell us what can be done to make it as safe as possible, not just to get by, but to make it as safe as possible. And I think that's all we can do.
And I don't mean to diminish the flooding aspect, but if I was the owner of a wood yard, those logs are your inventory. I don't think you want to see them washing downstream. I would think you would do everything in a weather situation to move those logs to an area that's not going to be compromised rather than losing your inventory.
Okay. Any other comments? Because we're either gonna have to entertain a motion or
Well,
stop here and reconvene.
But
We're already late.
real quick on the buffers. I mean, 50 feet is massive. I mean, I don't see that. I don't know that we need a buffer at all. So I would strike the whole thing. But if we have to have a buffer, I think we need to come up with something a little more reasonable than 50 feet.
50 feet from like here to there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a long way.
All the way around, that's a lot.
I mean, we don't require that of the vehicle storage lots. I mean, we require some buffer,
Well,
but not.
I would say we could
that
strike
depth.
it, but that, again, depending on where it is, you might need a buffer.
You absolutely.
And
might
so
be.
rather than say,
Well,
so,
I will add, it does say a minimum of 50 foot in width. So, well, that's sort of the opposite of Supervisors Lewis' question or concern. Others were saying that 50 feet is not enough buffer in some cases. So it is a minimum of 50 feet, which is obviously 50 feet is 50 feet.
Yeah. Hey, we agree. I mean, I don't, but my motion would be just to go with 01. I mean, I guess I have to say I would strike the 02 and the 03, but I don't want to create some.
which doesn't mean that they can't be put in.
But that would be my question. I mean, you could add it.
You can add it, but if you approve it now, you can't take away
Right.
from it.
That's
Yes.
in the special exception process, a buffer could be added and a width of a buffer could be defined. I don't think we need to set a pejorative minimum of that at the outset. I don't.
Yeah, because
The other meeting,
the
but I
other
will.
people are being very patient, but I
Absolutely.
think it's gonna wear.
I will remind at the September 27th, as reported, September 27th, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting, the board held its public hearing. The Board of Supervisors was very supportive of this use in the agricultural zoning district, but were concerned on approving a proposed zoning text amendment without additional perimeters criteria for use. And so verbatim, the board approved a motion to refer the zoning text amendments for wood yards back to the Planning Commission for further considerations related to the 100-year floodplain, minimum lot size, buffer requirements, and scale of operation. So I obviously remember the vote on that, but I do.
But
want to
I
remind-
think what the board is saying is that, speak for myself, is that we're happy with 716.01. And we will add as needed anything else when people come before us.
Well, I mean, that's what you said.
No,
Yes, I
I'm
understand.
speaking
what you
for
mean.
myself.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I move that's what we adopt, which is 71601.
Do we have a second?
So every single wood yard would still be under special
Yes.
exception
And an engineering plan.
and an engineering plan. So it would have to come forward regardless to the board for any changes or additions to that might be deemed necessary for that particular location.
I think I'm following your question, but I do want to clarify that's still a permitted use in industrial zoning district, of course. So this condition
It's just
01 would pertain.
To the aggregates.
Yes.
Yes. And is
Do we
that,
have industrial zones in the flood district? Sorry.
We do have some industrial zoning. I'm confident to say we have industrial zoning districts with floodplain associated with. Yes, ma'am.
so I will second Mr. Lewis's motion.
Any further discussion?
Can I do some bookkeeping real quick? So we would have to, and this is very brief, wood yards under number 1. Wood yards definition would stay the same. 602.13, excuse me, 602.03-14 would stay the same. The A2 would stay the same, and that's 603.03-25. But 607.02-24, we would change that 716.01 to 716.00. Correct? I think that's the only thing, as far as just sort of housekeeping. Thank you. That's my motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Ayers. Mr. Day.
Yes.
And the chair vote yes. We will now go into recess, and because we
Is there any more on the agenda, Dr. Lyons?
yes, there is more on the agenda, and we'll come back afterward.
What is?
You'll have to stay, Jay.
Sorry, we have to. We got-
I can
we
just
got
be
three
absent.
Staff reports.
Oh, I see. Well, I always approve those with.
That's why we need you here.
Thanks.
We get a couple minutes.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah. Can I just make a motion to do that?
Oh.
I mean, we can do it. but
All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion
Yeah,
to
real
approve
quick,
staff
don't
reports
leave.
as presented?
Yep.
Second, with thanks.
Any objection? Mr. Day, you good?
Yes, 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 yes.
I'm good.
Yes.
And then we'll move to adjourn.
No, Jay,
Uh,
you can go home.
No, I gotta go get a
You get it?
Scouts, he's in Scouts.
All right.
I always go down there.
See, I think I got 50, no problem with that.
We're adjourned.
I like the way you think.